Board games, it's what I'm talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this morning by talking to the one called Richard Denning. Richard, here, soon we'll go. Soon we'll talk about Virtually Expo. It's a convention that has been made for this situation. I'm afraid that UK Games Expo is not happening this year, but there's a replacement that can appear. Yay!
Oh dear. How prepared this time.
And I am Bez. It is, if you are in Australia or New Zealand, it's his bedtime. So it's out of respect to people across the world who sometimes watch, it is the first ever Bezzy Bedtime Board Game Letter Show. And today we are chatting about Virtually Expo with Richard Denning. And good morning. Sate is very excited. Are you a musician, Richard?
I'm not a musician, believe me or not. Sometimes I do talks on historical stuff, and this is a kind of like when I do talks on kind of medieval musical instruments and things like that. Get in there occasionally, Anglo-Saxon stuff. So that's as far as my music goes. I can blow a horn. I've got an Anglo-Saxon horn.
Oh, nice.
I have to find that sometime, but that's about it.
Good morning, Alan. Lovely to see you. And I forgot to ask you, I've started asking my guests if they feel ready. So we've had walls, we've had oxygen, we've had glasses, we've had spectacles. Do you have an idea? Don't tell me yet, but do you have an idea for a brilliant thing?
A brilliant thing.
Brilliant thing. What's a little thing that is brilliant? Okay. If you don't have an idea.
Well, my idea once when we were actually wanting something at that moment was something called Amazon Instant. So you can place your order on Amazon and it teleports in onto your table. You got the same day delivery, not fast enough. You need that thing right now. You should have an Amazon Instant and they can dump it delivers, teleport or possibly a drone. But even that's not fast enough, is it? So they've got to have the Star Trek thing ready for the technology, and then then you're ready. You need a webcam. It should be there in 30 seconds.
You know what, Alan? No one has actually said that games are a brilliant thing. So
we should be doing, shouldn't we?
I mean, you know what? Let's just scrap all that the last 30 seconds. Let's just talk about games. Games are quite a brilliant thing.
Yeah, they are. Well, yes. I mean, they're great, aren't they? Because I mean, it's what I have a job for now. And it's always been something that I've enjoyed way back to when I was, young kid and things. And I think it's that ability to sort of play stuff together. It's the social fun around a table. It's the sort of, I don't know, Pat with his dodgy dice, who I play with quite a bit, and comments like that come up, and forgetting to tell some critical rule to Tony at some point. The first game I played, the second year of the expo, and he still mentions that now. He still mentions it now, 13, 14 years on. So,
really?
So, but I mean. Yeah.
This is Tony Hyams, I assume.
Yes, it is. The very second year of the expo.
Tony is a person to keep a grudge in a joking way, then.
Yeah, well, no, he likes his games. He likes to know the exact rules, though, because he likes to win. I think this was Galaxy Trucker when I was trying to show him Galaxy Trucker. There's a lot going on in Galaxy Trucker, so I think I was sort of like rolling the rules out in bits and pieces, and forgot some critical bit, and half his ship fell off. And he sort of, when are you going to tell me that bit that could happen? When he went through some asteroid belt or something. So,
I mean, there are so many brilliant things about games. The fact that they bring people together, even solo games, they can be something where they bring people together afterwards as you share your stories of them. They can, allow us to explore a framework. both for our mental aptitude and just, exploring some theme or story. And I feel like we could spend an hour and a half just talking about why games are brilliant. That's going to be probably the theme of the show one day, which is just brilliant things, and then we won't have any other sections. That's all. But yeah, games are brilliant, which is why I would like to ask you very briefly, games. What have we been playing? What are their names?
Right, well, so what I've been playing things. Terraforming Mars, actually, a couple of weeks back. There's one of the little games cafes near us has sort of started opening up in suitable distancing involved and hand sanitizers everywhere and all this stuff. But we managed to actually have a physical game for the first time since the very beginning with Tony, actually, and Finney from the Expo and Pat and things, and all my friends, of Terraforming Mars, and Tony won, but that was fun. Good game, that. And we've done a few things on online games, things like Seven Wonders and Carcassonne. And played around a bit with that.
Arena?
Yeah, Board Game Arena. I mean, some of it's because we've been trying to try out the format and the platform and things, but actually, then it's quite easy to play, isn't it? Yeah. So
I'm just laughing because Xates has this amazing kindred spirit for terraforming Mars. And Xates also knows the one game that actually I did finish a game of Crazy Farmers and the Clutus Electrics, and I've got one in progress, and I played a tiny bit of Ponte del Diablo. That's the thing about the turn-based games on Board Game Arena. They can sometimes stretch out over a month or whatever.
Oh yeah, you just set it off and.
Xates and I tried this game called the Jolly Monster Lab, which we played 2-player. We messed around with it, and it is a game. And I don't have much more to say about it. You're sort of collecting things. It was interesting to try it out. Yes. It is a game.
It's a game. Okay, well, I'll take your word on that one. I haven't seen it myself, to be honest. So,
it's definitely a game.
We do a bit of role playing as well. We're quite keen on role playing games. You can see these books behind me and things. So we do run a couple of role playing games a week as well, which works pretty well on the internet. Through various means, Discord, and we use Fantasy Grounds. So that's so it means we can carry on with our weekly game that we would otherwise not have been able to do, which is good.
And Alan Outson, congratulations! Number 9 in the world on Board Game Arena's backgammon. That's pretty good going. I mean, I'm fairly sure it must have a fairly active community, but can't be resting on your laurels forever.
Got to get above 9, don't you? Got to keep trying.
Yeah, get to number 5. Now, recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights. I'm going to share this picture that I took of myself in front of a shop that's just over 6.5 miles away. And this is when I brought it back. The creme brulee had sadly all fallen to the bottom. It was a much better picture when I received it. There was a special creme brulee flavor bubble tea with a tiny creme brulee bit at the top. But yeah, I realized that what I would need to do in future is to, if life was a situation where I could have sat in a park in Camden and enjoyed it, that might have been brilliant. But as I need to cycle it back, no, it's not quite got the. But I did also have this other one. It's a coffee bubble tea, so it's actually a mocha with bubble tea going on, and I had the lychee popping balls, and that was all good, but it was just a little bit too much sugar for me. I'm not going to lie. This was both my breakfast and my lunch. That is how many calories are in there, and I still felt pretty full. And that was one of my highlights. And the other one was just kind of getting to go into the shop, and I'm hoping that all this thing will be a thing of the past at some point in the relatively near future.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
What were some of your recent highlights?
Actually I've been twice now out to a pub just for a meal, not to go and sit in the bar with lots and lots of people and drink or something, but it was my daughter's graduation. Should have been a week or so ago. We should have been in another reality, been up at Sheffield University celebrating that. Obviously not happening that way, so we decided to go to one of those country pubs that again, it's all lots of distancing, isn't it, with tables quite a distance apart, and lots of rules about that, but actually once you're in there, it's still quite nice to actually be able to sit at a table and have a meal with family for first time since all this sort of started and things. So that was actually pretty good. Also went to the Birmingham Botanical Gardens, which are a cracking set of and again that reopened recently. Again, you have time delivery and time to arrivals and all that. But because it's mostly outdoors, it's actually quite possible to be in a place when there's a fair number of other people, and it'd be generally quite a safe place. So that was nice because it meant you could actually see, go to an actual real world place and see lots of pretty plants and flowers and things in the sun. Felt almost normal. So the strange is the things that just doing that we took it for granted, even just 5 or 6 months ago, that now become quite a treat, really.
I mean, I've noticed that I've just not been cycling half as much, even a third as much as I would before the lockdown, because, I had places to go. And every Friday I would go to Royal Festival Hall, which was, I don't know, at least a 10-20 mile round trip. And if I decided to, sometimes I'd go swimming afterwards, and I'd go to the swimming pool, which was lovely. I would, cycle 25 miles and swim a few lengths all in one day. Quite often, every Tuesday, I would cycle off to go dancing, and then I'd cycle off to go to Loading Bar, which is a lovely place near me. And there are so many gatherings and things that I really miss. But we can, at the same time, look forward to hopefully there will be a day, even if it is a year in the future, that we will be able to do all of these things again. And Wellicon, like all of these things that we are missing, the New Zealand board game thing. Talking about, I do want to just very briefly say one thing. Are you familiar with Moby song Flower?
No, I thought so.
So I don't know if you can hear little bits of this music. So this song has a chord progression, and it keeps on building and building over the course of the song. And it says, bring daddy up, bring daddy down. And then you use this for exercise. So you do sit-ups, but you never touch the floor, something like that. Or you do leg raises, or you do push-ups. And so I've managed to get this morning, I managed to get just over 1 minute in. Whereas with the leg raises, I can do it all the way through, which is very exhilarating. And when you get to the end, the music builds up into a crescendo, and it's such a glorious feeling. And so it does take a bit of discipline to kind of do these things. Anyway, so let's talk about our main topic, which is the reasons that I had you over here. And I don't want to waste this opportunity. People in the audience, please feel free to comment, ask questions, follow, and I am going to ask you a very few short series. I think you have already done this, Richard. But do you remember this section? The questionably quick questions.
Okay. Yeah, I think so, but we'll see how it goes. Sorry? Have I had breakfast? No, not yet.
When did you wake up?
About 8 o'clock.
Iced coffee or hot tea?
Coffee.
Best thing to eat or drink whilst playing games?
Probably a nice German beer.
What's the last book you read?
What was this book I read at the moment? Gosh, I'm trying to think. I'm actually reading Maravale by John Robertson, who's the I guess the Expo. He's doing a children's book. So I only just got into that, but so I can't say much about it at the moment. But looking fun, yeah.
Nice. 3 things that you love about games.
That social bit we talked about, getting together with friends, clever stuff going on, I suppose. You know, when you look at a game and think, wow, that's clever. Well, something happening in the game, you know, mechanic or whatever it might be. And then there's that kind of like all shiny, sort of nice look to the thing. Art, maybe, all nice bits, you know, something like that.
And 3 things that you love about UK Games Expo / Virtually Expo in general.
Right. Well, normally I would say getting together with friends. I mean, that's the biggest thing of all. It's basically getting together with people that we know from the industry and friends and visitors and things like that. That's the thing. It's the sort of all the new stuff, seeing things you've never come across before, and then some random thing that happens. You know, just out of the blue, weren't expecting it. Some conversation like, I don't know, overhearing a conversation between the stormtroopers and the Lady Masons at the at the hotel in a lift. I don't know. There might be some strange conversation that happens that you just think, I'm quoting that in the future. So just the random thing out left field stuff that happens.
Yeah. Can you tell us something that you are excited about with Virtually Expo that could not happen if we were gathering in Birmingham? I don't know.
I suppose it's just trying to find out how does this stuff work online. You know, everyone's learning it, isn't it? Massive learning curves, and that is interesting. You know, I think you know, 5 months ago I didn't know Zoom, Discord, Twitch, or any of this stuff, and here we are doing all these things now. I think that's the thing, just to see how does it work online. You know, and does that mean, what does that mean for the future? You know, that's the thing. I think.
What's your favorite way to demonstrate games? Your favorite platform, whether that's Topia, Simulator, or Arena?
Are you talking online now or physical? Because it would always be the real world sort of thing.
Oh yes, sorry, I'm moving towards the current day and age. Sorry.
I've got quite familiar with Tabletopia, so all my games are now on Tabletopia. I like that sort of. I mean, Tabletop Simulator is a similar environment, so I'm not particularly going down on that one. It's just I've got used to Tabletopia, and I enjoy that physical feel of you actually picking up pieces and moving them around, and seeing other people's virtual hands moving around the table at the same time. So it feels the closest to actually being in a room with people. I think that's the point. You know, I quite like about it.
Have you considered making a board game arena version?
I have, yeah, but the board game arena, I think it's the AI mechanic part of it, the programming. I'm not a programmer, so that would require someone who was to do it. Yeah, I think there's a forum which you can put your games on, and the clever people out there will go and do that bit of it. So I have considered, but because I couldn't, I don't have the capacity myself to do it. Then that's why I went to the Tabletopia, because you can do that without programming skills or knowledge. You just got to have the assets and upload it into the system.
I mean, there's definitely some technical work to be done, but it's far less. Yeah,
very much so. It's you don't, because I mean, Board Game Arena, the game is run for you by the AI. That's good, because obviously sometimes you just want to be told what to do. And Tabletopia, someone's got to know what to do, and the pieces won't move themselves. Whereas Board Game Arena, they will, but that requires that programming to happen. And I think that so it's horses for courses between the two, really. I mean, I play quite a few games actually on Board Game Arena, and as part of this process, really, and also showing people how it works and things, and just for a bit of fun. And that's probably the easiest one to just jump into and be shown how a game works. Whereas Tabletopia, you need to know the game. Either someone's got to tell you it, or you've got to basically look at the rule book. But that's like a real game, isn't it? So
it's a lot more like a real thing, and certainly the fact that a game kind of enforces the rules makes it a bit more like a video game in some ways. And you can do what Kate and I did yesterday, which is just start messing around with the game and try and work it out as you go along.
Yeah. No, I think so. Yeah,
sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. Yeah. Sometimes you just want to try things out and things.
Hello, CD. It's lovely to see you. We've got, this. So I don't know if you saw the start. This is my first ever busy bedtime board game bladder, purely for people, in your parts of the world. And you're very welcome. So, my final, very questionably quick question. Could you describe a typical day for you in the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly basically, I do go to we have an office at UK Games Expo that has an office, and for large chunks of the lockdown, of course, we didn't go anywhere near it. Now we've started going there occasionally just to have an opportunity to get together, but most days I will just work from home. So it'll be, get up and go through all the emails, and then usually there's one or two or three tasks of the day that I need to sort of like thinking about. So it might be, I don't know, starting to work through the schedule of publisher designer talks or something and getting those on, or obviously you know something about that, or looking at what the Vikings are going to do, and so on. So usually a few things we'll do, and then what will happen is I've got the Discord on as well, and the phone's there, and someone Tony will phone me up just to talk about something. Our coder blokes on the Discord, and I tend to do a lot of communicating that way. We'll just fire off a quick message backwards and forwards, and every so often we'll jump on and we'll share screens and look at something to do with the website. So it's lots of sort of like dealing with emails, working through some tasks that might take time, but then every so often it'll be, right, we now need to collectively look at this page that's not working and try and see what we're going to do with it. And that's sort of, it's a mixture of those sorts of activities, really, just to get the site running for the show.
And there's a lot to consider. I mean, yeah, and hello, Dina. It's lovely to see you as well. And yeah, we've got a suggestion for even more bees. But I want to ask you, this is the end of the questionably quick questions. So if Alan wants to give the score, I want to just ask, how are you feeling about it?
As a gamer, I should have been asking about the scoring mechanism before we started. So go on.
Alan Outson has some sorts of strange scoring mechanism that no one else understands.
Oh, right, fair enough.
Oh, wow, you get a score of 10 out of 10.
Well, however I did that, that's good.
So I want to ask genuinely, emotionally, if I may ask, how are you feeling? I mean, presumably, yeah, there's a bit of sadness, certainly in my heart, that there's no real thing this year, but everyone's got to go along with that. Everyone's got to make sacrifices this year, but there is a bit of excitement, and I am genuinely, for those who don't know, I have been involved in an incredibly minor way. I linked Richard to some of the people who might be speaking for one of the free tracks that you now have. And also, I'm going to be speaking at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and I've got a stand, and I put down one event, I made my stand, and I'm speaking to Jason and Chris, trying to work out what we do as a trader, because can I take a couple of minutes to tell you about the 4 conventions that I've been at?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first convention I was at was Compulsion. Have you heard of that one?
I've been there quite a few times. Yeah, didn't do it this year. I think I checked out the online bit a little bit, but most years we go to Compulsion. Yeah,
and that was Scaled Con. I think it was actually scheduled to run the weekend after the lockdown, something like that. And that might have even been literally the first ever online board game convention. I want to say it's quite possible. I basically said, okay, I'm going to be in this Zoom room for 4 hours, however long it was. And during the course of that afternoon, a couple of people came in. And when people came in, I showed him a game. We played a game over Zoom because I have some games that can be played over Zoom with roll and write style things using the L deck or Giftable. And that was a good experience, although I didn't like the fact that when you don't have someone popping in and checking on you, it's even worse than real life. Because in real life, you can at least go over and have a wee chat to your neighbor if it's a quiet moment in the convention. And also, people are more likely to stumble upon you, although I do notice that you've got the whole randomized thing. If I actually should bring up the window. So yeah, if we go, when you are wandering through the virtual hall, everything's in a sort of randomized section. Then I went to the proto spiel. I learned that actually doing things online does take a new kind of energy. And I found myself that this is just my personal discoveries. I don't like Tabletop Simulator. I just find that incredibly frustrating. And I've not yet properly used Tabletopia. I should explore it. And I'll do so in maybe the next couple of weeks. But I think that just generally for me and for the kinds of games that I'm doing, it just makes a lot more sense to do it on a video.
Yeah, I think there's lots of ways to do things. I mean, we did an interview on our Twitch stream we have for the expo on Wednesday with Asmodee, just looking at what they're doing, and they're using exactly that cameras. So they're going to have all their HQ. They're going to have these games all set up on desks and tables with basically cameras pointing at them. If you want to play a game, you talk to the guy. You're on Discord with them for the audio bit, and then there's the game, and they also and you want to. Put your trains down on the route between New York and Chicago or something, then they'll do it for you. And
that's a perfectly reasonable way to do it as well, kind of getting people involved. There is going to be a tiny bit more lag because you've got to type in what you want to do, but then you at least get to see everything and you might be able to...
No, I think that's a good way of doing it as well. I think it's different environments, isn't it? Sometimes people quite like to move their pieces around, so if they can get their head around Tabletopia, that's quite good for that. Obviously, Board Game Arena, if you happen to have your games on there, then that will run it for you. And I think there's different things will suit different people. Both of those things require you to have an account or at least go on as a guest and get used to the interface, whereas your suggestion with the camera is going to be the easiest in some ways, because you don't need to do that, do you? You just sort of look at the thing, look at the screen and stuff, and get them to move it for you.
Hello, Dave. It is lovely to see you virtually this morning, and I'm just starting to do the customary flick through the Instagram that sometimes do around this time, and so we have a question from the audience who's really keen to learn what kinds of team you have.
Yeah, well, so we have there are 5 employees, if you like, of UK Games Expo. So we started this off as a hobby thing. So 14 years ago, we were just doing this as a hobby, and for most of the show, it's been a hobby. We formed a limited company, and myself and Tony, the other director. I don't know when we moved to the Hilton Hotel. When was that, 2013? But even then, it was I bought an iPad from my earnings one year. It's that sort of level of income. It wasn't paying the way. And then when we started going around and you see there's some photos there. We at that point, fortunately the event was getting bigger, so we were able to start getting a bit of income, but also the work was getting hugely bigger. So we started to employ a team of 5 of us. So there was 2 directors. Pat there, the chap with the grey hair, he's one of our early founders of the show, helped co-found the show with me right at the beginning. But he's one of our sort of like core team of basically volunteers who we cover a bit of their expenses and costs and things like that. But that's about it. So there are 5 permanent people. We have an administrator, we have a marketing lady, we have a Finny, our logistics bloke, and then our 2 directors. But then we have about 14 what we call the core team. And the core team will be like John Dodd, our role-playing manager, Millie Lavelle, who runs our seminars, and Nikki and Abby Hyams, who do the merchandise and ambassadors. There's I think that was my Christmas party that I caught him one year. So we try, we'll take about to thank you and stuff. So there's 14 or so of those, and on the actual weekend of the physical show, there's anything up to 150 or more volunteers who do sessions and slots and things. Lots of GMs and gamers and things. All these are volunteers, of course. They usually get accommodation, food vouchers, but basically the pay team is 5, an extended team that get to have more involvement through the year, about 14, and then everybody else just piles in at the weekend. It's a much more strict.
Definitely include all your volunteers. It runs into the hundreds, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we put up, I can't remember, it's a ridiculous number, a couple hundred people or so over the weekend, because so a number of the people, like the volunteers, the gamers masters, the cosplay guys, some of those. There's lots of people on the actual weekend, which you just couldn't be done without. So for many years, we would just set the show up ourselves. Once you start to get into a hall of that size, with volunteers trying to set it up, it does get to the point of the limits of what you could expect out of even enthusiastic team of volunteers, which they really are. So this last year or so, we started employing a third-party company to help us do the physical setup of the show. So they would, if this year had been the real year that we planned, we added on a setup day on the Wednesday, and we'd have had 2 whole setup days, and the whole thing would have been built on the Wednesday, and then all the exhibitors would have been piling in on the Thursday morning, and then the volunteers would all have been arriving on the Thursday to basically learn the show. We'd have spent they'd had a day or lots of the day to sort of learn, have walk rounds and learn what was happening and stuff. But of course, things took a different turn, didn't they? So we've got a much smaller group of volunteers who are directly involved with the virtual show, because we've mainly got a technical support team that will be in the office. We've just bought lots of screens and things.
Set of skills that you need people to have now.
Absolutely. So it's that side of things is mainly technical support, sort of if people can't get into Discord or Zoom or whatever it might be, just trying to help with those sorts of questions. Other volunteers that maybe aren't directly involved in that, there's other people that are just going to be in and out of the Discord, hopefully helping people, with advice and suggestions for things to do. So it's a much smaller one for this show, but hopefully we'll be back to normal again next year, as much as normal is.
And this kind of illustrates the insanity of UK Games Expo. This is actually at UK Games Expo. This is inside a bus, which is inside a hall. And Lawrence, Wotan Games, very wisely thought, if we paint an entire double-decker bus black and put our branding on it and drive us in, it might get us extra people to talk about it. And sure enough, 3 years later, we're still talking about it.
We are. We're very much part of the feature of the show, really, the bus. The one year it broke down on the way, it was very disappointing. There's a big hole in the hall when it didn't turn up.
It feels like there's a lot of support for smaller conventions. I mean, this is UK Games Expo. This is a tiny part of it. You can't really get the scale. The earlier photo with the high shots is nice, but because you go to other conventions, both as a publisher, but also to kind of to solicit people, to encourage them to come over, you really know conventions well, it feels like. Do you know what I mean?
I hope so. I mean, I think we started off being basically gamers. I mean, that was where it came from. We wanted to run a show. There wasn't. I've been to Essen and Gen Con, which was Gen Con was a bit more towards the role playing, really, and not really public orientated. The family kind of environment type orientated. We didn't feel that's. I'm talking about Gen Con UK now when it was running. So I think good for the hardcore, but not necessarily getting stuff out there to the mainstream. So we wanted to run a show like that, and so we got it going. I wondered if anyone had turned up the very first year back in 2007. I think we were hoping for a few hundred. We got over 1,000. And that was the start of it all. And I think because we're gamers ourselves, we really do sort of like unwrap the award games that get sent in and sort of sometimes drool over them and before we send them out to the judges. So we are keen, and we play different games. Tony's much into role playing. He likes Magic. I'll play anything. Different people. Finney is more of the war gamer, but also he'll do the role playing and everything. So we all are gamers ourselves, and so we will. Because of that, I think we try to make the show as fun as we can, really. That hopefully there's enough going on, more going on than you can possibly do in the weekend is the idea. And then out of that, we try to encourage the development of other shows as well around the country, because a good thriving, calendar of game shows. When I say around the country, we're quite happy to mention ones around the world if folks get in touch with us, because we do that. We will do put out a ping or mention shows that are happening, because it just all helps the build of the thing, doesn't it? It gets people to shows, and it means people are playing games, and that's the key. So this hall's always trained for empty like that.
CD says that they enjoy things that are a wee bit smaller, which is perfectly reasonable. We've got to 1,000, and there seems to be exponentially more work. Would you agree with that? Or do you think that the amount of work increases linearly with the number of attendees?
I think there's almost a kind of, you get to a certain kind of bell curve sort of thing, strangely, because when you're starting off, it is literally just 2 or 3 people. The very first year, the entire show was in my head and one of the guys. Nobody else knew the plans at all. We would just literally walk around saying, that's there, put it there. And as it got bigger, we started to bring on people, but the work built up. The problem is, when you're lower than a certain size of show, you really haven't got anything coming in income-wise. These shows are not profitable things for hundreds or even a few thousand people. So you then find the workload builds up and builds up. You can't actually afford to employ staff. So you do reach a point when you're doing a full-time job, as I was doing, so 4 or 5 years ago. But we were planning a show here at the NEC, and we hadn't got. We hadn't got our any staff at all, and that then became almost sort of like backbreaking. They're just the sheer amount of like 3 a.m. conversations on Skype and things like that, just to try and make the show happen. But then when you get beyond that point and now starting to get income, you can start to afford an administrator and a few other people. So then it starts to become a bit easier again, because you can start to. Different people have jobs, and you can sort of say, right, now go off and plan this bit. So then it does ease off a bit after that, but it's still an enormous task and things. And what we try to do as much as we can is a big show like this will not feel the same as that kind of like smaller show, but we still have a community. We think there's all sorts of people you see every year that you've been seeing since the beginning, that you say hello to and you try to bump into around the place. Try to have as many chats and conversations as you possibly can, because that community feel is very important to us. You're going to get that at smaller shows easier, but and once you get to the size that we are now, people tend to, stuff happens you don't even know happens. You see photos afterwards and think, were we doing that? Was that happening? But that's then part of the fun.
I mean, honestly, there's enough going on at UK Games Expo to fit triple the amount of time that it lasts. Yes. Even if you don't, it's completely ignoring like the RPGs. Even if you only focus on the board games, there's just so much happening. So many games to demo, so many people you could be chatting to, and the seminars and everything.
Yes. We try to make it deliberate that way, that it's meant to be an immersive weekend, really, that you want to. People quite often joke to us sometimes, I'll pop in for an hour or two, see what it's like. And you said, that's fine, I hope you enjoy it. And they come back often at the end of the day and sort of say, well, can I come back tomorrow? Because you realise actually you really, to absorb it all, you've got to be there for the duration. But that's fine. That's part of the plan. We want to make sure there's more to do than you could do in half a day.
And CD says that they find their smaller ones were profitable, but the bigger one is not. It sounds like they're kind of in that valley where for you it sounds like it was 10,000 people before you were able to say, okay.
It was interesting actually. Tony went to Gen Con in Indy some years ago. I can't remember quite where it was. It was before we went to the NEC, so sometime back about 2014, 15. And at that point, he actually met Peter Atkinson, who owns Gen Con. And Peter said to him, you know, you are at that point that basically you need staff, but you can't afford it. That the workload is too huge, but you can't pay people to do it. Now, eventually, that gets better if you continue to grow. So yes, I think there's very much that sort of, when it's small, you can cope, you can do most of it with a few people. You hit a point when just the immensity of it all starts to become impossible. You really need a staff, but you can't afford it because you're not making enough profit now. And then eventually, when you get out the other side, when you start to get into the teens of thousands, then now are generating enough to start to employ people. You know, I was a doctor. You know, I technically still am, but I've not worked as a GP for a couple of years now because the workload of this got to the stage that I was a struggle, but it wasn't paying enough. But now it's paying something, you know. So I can do this now, sort of basically as the day job.
And hello, TK Canned Gaming. It's lovely to see you. Is that Richard? Is that Richard Simpson? Is that one?
I think he is our VIP guest on our Twitch stream. I believe Biddy declared him to be. Yeah.
CD says that maybe in New Zealand they will never get to the point of UK Games Expo. That's quite possible. And so maybe they will always be stuck in that difficult spot of it just being really difficult to run.
It can be difficult. So there aren't that many shows around the world that are, you know, when we started out, we said, well, is it possible to do a show of 5,000 people in the UK? And then obviously we went past that and said, okay, what about 10,000? Is that feasible? And then when we passed that, which is by far the largest, then into the domains of the largest tabletop game show, is pure tabletop. I mean, obviously there are mixed shows, Comic-Con type things, which are 30,000, but you know, game-related shows. You stop then guessing numbers, and you just sort of see what happens on a year-by-year basis. But I think it is difficult because New Zealand's obviously a fair way from lots of places. So I don't know what the numbers are. I mean, you say, you know, how many gamers are there in New Zealand that would go to a convention? You know, we still feel when you look at the numbers of people who are UK say account holders on Board Game Geek, we're still probably we still don't get all of those at the expo. Yeah, and there are people that go to that. So I think there is, and now of course there's that appeal to the mainstream. A lot more people who are just more casual gamers are starting to be aware of games, and they go into games cafes as families, and so there's a lot more people out there who if the environment is that family friendly approach, which we hope we do as much as we can, then they may well come along. We do get a lot of families turn up for a day, you know, particularly locals, you know, and obviously we're doing the event on the second city, near the second city of the UK. So the conurbation here is sort of 3 or 4 million, 5 million, is it? I don't know. Farm, Coventry, Wolverhampton, Birmingham. And you've got 60% of the UK's population within a 3-hour drive of here, including obviously the huge populations down in the south, you know, around London and things. So I suppose all of that does create a potential audience that to drive an event of that size. But Indianapolis, of course, is in the middle of pretty much nowhere there, and attracts 90,000. Is it unique? 70, 80,000.
It's at a certain point when you grow beyond 20. I would say when you grow much beyond 10,000, you're big enough that you're pulling people in, and people are traveling for you. Having said that, so I just want to flag up Dave's comment. I love how UK Games Expo has kept that community feel. I think it's a really friendly convention. any thoughts on how we can make it even more inclusive, as gaming in UK remains very white and mainly middle class?
Yeah, I mean, this has been obviously this year of all years. This is a particularly good question, really, because we've been aware that you look at pictures of the expo, and the very high percentage of what you might think of as white middle class people. When you look around the audience, you will see families and Asian families there. Birmingham's got quite a high Indian subcontinent sort of population, and so you do see them coming, but the numbers wise, it's still a relatively small percentage. Afro-Caribbean sort of backgrounds, again, similar, and certainly the thing that we've been scratching our head about, thinking how do you reach out to those sort of communities and things, and sometimes we try and do events at other times in the year, like, I don't know, school days and things like that. In annual competitions and things like that to try. My own son's school, he goes to Handsworth Grammar, and he is one of, I think, three basically white British kids in his entire year. So he, his entire class basically is of Indian or Afro-Caribbean background, and to him that's just normal. That's life, and so we try and reach out to that school, for example, and be invited along and things one year. If anyone's got any bright ideas, I think we're welcome to. We're always willing to listen.
I mean, it's difficult to bring people in, for sure. I think that we've got to, and Tea Cake and Gaming suggests that everyone just grab two people, show them what's out there, because people can't see past Monopoly quite often.
No.
And I think this, okay, I'm not saying anything bad about Monopoly, although it's not a game that I would choose to play personally. But if there are people there who say, I'm really enjoying Monopoly, then great. And if you want to continue it, maybe it's become a tradition, maybe it's something that you do you. I think there is a sense of elitism sometimes in gaming to say, oh, you're not a real gamer, or even if it's a party game, you're not. Sorry, you were about to respond to that.
Well, no, I think anything. A game's a game, isn't it? And if people, you're right. There's a lot of people who we do things like, there's a thing near us called Middle Earth Weekend that tends to happen in September, and basically a family audience just of local people, and we'll turn up with some games on tables and things, and you'll see people who just stare at these things and thinking, what on earth are these? You really have to start at the level of, quite often, sort of like a double game or something like that, and you get having a go at something that's just easy, very fast to access the rules of which there's virtually no rules. And then perhaps you can stop. Then it's sometime you don't get them down at Terraforming Mars. You don't sit them down at that table, but maybe then they'll have a go at Ticket to Ride, and if they can do Ticket to Ride, blah blah. There's a sort of progression, isn't there, of sort of of things. So, and those easy to play, fast, no rules virtually at all party games are good, because they're not going to sit down for a 20-minute rules description, which you're going to need to do for Terraforming Mars, aren't you? I'm still don't think I understand it all. I've played it a few times now, but yeah, party games have a purpose, and because the reasons why they're nice and easy and light and accessible, and I think that's probably the way to go. And light family games like the doubles, are the good way of engaging. I think.
Yeah, I think that. I want to kind of say something slightly negative about something that you've done in the past, Richard. And
Okay.
Sorry about this. I have a lot of respect for UK Games Expo and everything. Just when you compare yourself, I can't remember what you say, it's the third biggest or fourth biggest in the world or whatever. You're comparing yourself to Origins, to Gen Con, to Essen. But Gil Hoover made the point that by doing that, you kind of gloss over a lot of other non-English speaking conventions.
Yep, we
So
made
the
you.
Game Fair and Festival International de Jeux, and the one in Italy that I can't remember the name of.
Luca Games and Comics. I think it's saying which, and I know the organisers of that actually. We have a chat to. I think what we tend to what we say is for pure tabletop games conventions. Now we may be wrong, and to be honest, I don't tend to think of it. I don't tend to talk about that phrase anymore. I tend to talk about one of the largest or something like that, because there's so many different events, and how do you compare one with another? So taking Luca Games and Comics, that is a huge event. It uses the whole city of basically Luca, but it is even the phrase it gives it away. Luca Games and Comics, so it's not just games. Yeah, so it is a show of all sorts of stuff going on. So there's comics, there's art, there's music, etc. Lots of the Festival de Jeux in France, I think, is lots of toys type things, computer gaming and things like that.
And
so in terms of
have you been to Festival International de Jeux?
I haven't been actually. It's one on my list to get to sometime, to be honest.
And I would say the video games are about maybe 20% at most. It is very firmly board games.
And and I think I've sort of, we looked at basically what is there in the sort of, I imagined you would say we were looking at the English speaking world primarily because we're in that, and but I think we nowadays, I tend to think of in terms of looking purely at sort of tabletop games, or where do we fit, and in terms of conventions that are focused on that. And to be honest, I'm not even that interested in what number now. I think it's more the fact that we're clearly one of the larger ones, and I would look at the Festival de Jeux, the Essen, Luca Games and Comics. There's a whole bunch of them which are big events and things, and I think varying numbers. The focuses are different between them. And I think what you're going to do basically in our case, we say, what can we do to make it the largest show that we're able to make it in the UK, and doing what we do in terms of the combination of fun tabletop games with publishing aspects going on and this sort of thing. So I think and the other thing is, I think what we have to remember is we've sort of come from a background. I said right at the start of all of this that we are just originally gamers. We are not industry professionals. Quite often we encounter people who are genuinely from the industry side of things, and suddenly realise that actually you don't know a lot of what's going on in the world, and you haven't heard of everything. And we try to become aware as much as we can, but sometimes it is the case of someone having to say to us, "Have you heard of this? Have you not? Have you been to that? You said that the other day, but." Think about this thing over here, and so now I think there's a lot we can learn about all these other things, and so I don't tend to sort of personally talk about that in those terms anymore. I tend to say we're one of the largest in the world, and the largest in the UK and things, and I focus more on what we do, really, rather than stats and numbers and so on.
Oh, here's Richard and Tony.
Eric and Ernie, yeah.
I think that, in all honesty, whilst the Origins thing, UK Games Expo became bigger, okay, Origins became bigger, and there was a bit of a back and forth, and it was amusing, but it feels like at this point, let's be honest, to some degree, who cares? Because they're both really big. UK Games Expo is big and it's respected, and I wonder, I'm projecting because I have a lot of imposter syndrome. I wonder if parts of that was imposter syndrome on your parts, because now that UK Games Expo very much is on the global landscape, and people are realizing that this is something to be aware of. I mean, it's no Gen Con or Essen, but it's it's basically that second tier kind of worldwide.
Yeah, and in fact, this year when the lockdown started, I got an invitation to be part of a group of the organisers of various shows, including the Luca Games and Comics, Gen Con, and Origins. And I met the organisers of Origins actually at Nuremberg this year. We had a good chat about stuff, the comparison of shows and the different things. So I think my philosophy now is very much not about numbers, not about who's the biggest and the smallest or the whatever. It's more about what are we all doing, and in fact, what can we do to help each other, you know, in terms of a global and national in the UK environment. So that's why we are keen to support Tabletop Scotland and Aircon and Dragon Meet and the other shows, because we want there to be a building industry worldwide and internationally. So you know, we Glenn Jenkon very sort of kindly sort of did posts for us about our show. We do ones about theirs. Games Hole, which is in Wisconsin in November, taking our posts, and we'll be talking about them as well. So now I think it's about supporting everybody as much as possible. And I think we have all our times in the year. We have our sort of niches of sort of emphasis, and I think it's about that being as the environment, the industry being as big as possible. Yeah, that's the key. But when you're growing, the numbers do matter to an extent, because what you'll find is that the publishers will ask the question. They will honestly, when you're starting to talk to international companies and things like that about can we get a large company to the UK Games Expo, that stats are relevant, yeah, in terms of that. But they're mostly relevant to publishers, and really probably not relevant to visitors. Visitors just want to know, is it going to be a fun show, and what can I see when I get there? So I think that emphasis is something that we need to collect these numbers, because we're going to get asked the questions. But beyond that, leave it there. I don't tend to worry too much about it.
And by the way, morning, Alex, and it's good to see you. And yeah, that kind of mutual support is a really lovely thing. Yeah. And yeah, it does matter for a publisher, but okay, the fact that Gen Con is bigger than UK Games Expo doesn't instantly mean that it's worth me going there, because I'm based in UK. So one of them costs a lot more for me to travel over to. Yeah, and even before we get into the cost of the booths or anything like that, now within the UK, I think it makes sense to sometimes compare numbers from. I just feel like if I could be so bold as to kind of make a suggestion or a request, it would be almost to like not compare stuff, because yes, Javier recently pointed out that Festival International de Jeux, it is free entry for 80% of the people. So it's incredibly unfair to compare Festival International de Jeux to something where people are paying every day that they turn up. But
I think that's a very relevant point, because the economics of every show is different. Yeah. So sometimes we'll get asked the question, why are you charging for this? Why are you not charging for that? Why are these costs at this level? Everyone's economics are very different. Some shows will get free convention space to use, yeah, because the city will support that and will basically as an economic thing for the area. We don't get that luxury, unfortunately. We're not getting any help, so we have to do the thing with the income from wherever we can generate it, from exhibitors, from sponsors, from visitors. Other shows will get some grants and things. Equally, there's some areas which we feel we can put on effectively for free or as low as possible, because we can support that, and I think that's important. Economics are different for each show, so it's very difficult to compare like by like and things. Yeah, you just have to look at each individually, really.
And Alex's question of how Cannes funds itself, it's mainly through the exhibitors and through the people who get these special passes in the mornings, because you can pay something like 30 euros to get in before anyone else. But if you just want to wander up for an hour, and I believe, oh, there's me. Oh no, it's not me. You can't actually see me. There's Jason. Yes. I'm hidden to the left, I think. Oh, this was last year. You had a really nice sort of intro-y bit before.
This is the show preview. Yeah, we do this on the Thursday night. So this is a thing we do for the media, for the press, for the other exhibitors, and for things like retailers and distributors. So the exhibitors get a free table. So there you go. That's one of those free things we do with their stand. You have a stand, you get a free table at the preview, and you just turn up and put your stuff on the table, and then we invite as many press, media, and so on as possible, as a way of giving, exposing whatever you've got in terms of new things. Become quite a popular event. I mean, we started it off, it was a relatively small attendance, but gradually it's built. I think there were a good 600 or so retailers, distributors, and press, or something of that nature, attended it last year, and there's quite a buzz to it. Quite a bit of the show, and I think that helps because they know all those guys have an advanced sort of like idea about what they then want to go and check out later, if it's media or distributors and things. And that might, if it's in the case of the publishers, the idea, of course, is that they're doing this to show their games and everything else. But what you want as well is they want ultimately to be able to sell their games, and hopefully those retailers might come and buy a few copies, and distributors might think, right, we want to carry that game. So that's why we do that bit.
I had some key questions that I was hoping to get into. What have we learned from other online conventions? What can be replicated? What cannot be? And what advantages are there of online conventions? I mean, one big advantage is that they can happen right now without spreading disease. Are viri medically still counted as disease, or is disease suggesting bacteria?
I think it would be any form of illness like this, and so yes, this would definitely be a disease of a sort. So I think online shows, yes, can.
So what have you learned from other? Let's do that in reverse order, because the first question almost feels like the most challenging. But let's talk about what are the advantages of online conventions?
Well, I think obviously it's costs are one thing. I mean, there are costs. I mean, for us to get the site ready, there are costs. I'm not saying that, but for the purposes of people attending the show, that you're not going to book hotel rooms and travel. Same with the exhibitors and things. So that obviously does reduce the costs for everyone. Potentially that allows people from New Zealand, for example, to pop in and have a look at the show, when that would have been quite expensive a thing to come all the way to the UK for UK Games Expo. So I think it does allow for a broader audience from worldwide to get into the show. That's one thing. I think that's the sort of one of the main areas as well. Is it why it broadens the opportunity to check out things that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to check. It's still an awful lot, quite a bit of organising, but certain bits of it, from as an organiser point of view, you're not going to now think about tables and chairs and square metres of space and things. But then the flip to that, of course, I'm assuming it's going to be another question. Well, the difficulties is, of course, it's a different environment completely.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of learning difficulties, as we were saying before we started.
You show that picture there, and people coming in the video. You organise the physical show. You set it up. You open the doors, and then people run in, and they get on with it. And they encounter things and talk to people and sit down and play the games. In this online world, that bit is massively more difficult in some ways, because you've got to know, how do people actually play the games? How are you going to get them to make contact with the gamers, the publishers, and other gamers, and play games? That's the hurdle, isn't it, to overcome? Which we're looking at with all those platforms and things. I think we're trying to make we're trying to have the feel of that community as much as we can. So what we try and do is encourage people to get onto the website. You can get into our Discord server, and if you're on the Discord server, you can chat. There's all sorts of channels in there where you can have a bit of fun in the queue. Weird stuff happens in the queue if you go into it, just /Q or /dance. Strange things happen. If you get into the Discord, you can go into the lobby and have a debate with people about something. There's an exhibitor hall channel, which will mainly support sort of like the idea is people can talk about what they've seen in the exhibitor hall. There's a private exhibitor hall, exhibitors only channel for exhibitors to chat technical queries with us. So there's going to be lots of open gaming channels and other things. So the idea is to try and encourage people to not just sit at their computer clicking links, but to actually get in and chat to others, and get games going and get in there and try demos. So that's the key to us. We were looking at things and thinking, how do we make it that this site isn't just a series of links? So once we, it's got to be, we encourage more interaction than that, to feel like you're part of something. So, well, that's the biggest challenge for us. And, we may not have it entirely right. This is the first time we tried to do this. And, when we cancelled the real show in May, we'd only just started thinking about doing a virtual show. I've been to one or two, and we just started the process of thinking about it. I think each show that happens, that you can see how they did it, like Gen Con was last weekend. I've been on the Steve Jackson Games convention and popped into a few others. And I think every show that happens, then we'll all look at and think, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what can be done better, and we'll all learn from that, And I think it'd be interesting to see how Spiel does theirs when it comes to October. And I think go to next year, if we're able to do physical shows again, well, that's great. That's what we really want, of course. But if we can't, then I think there'll be a sort of,
I just realised, looking at this picture, especially with people, if an American's watching this show, they might think that is actually a security person, whereas it is indeed just a cosplayer.
It is.
There is no heavy security at UK Games Expo.
No, not at all. No, we tried to make it as easy as possible. So there is and one of the moans we do get with the show, and it is things we look at every year, is how do we get people in as fast as possible and queuing to get your tickets and things. And but once you actually open the doors, then people just have to wave their badge. So that video of us jumping out of the way because everyone's rushing in is once you've actually got the badge in your thing, people are just physically scanning, literally looking for a colour bar on and things on the badge that says this guy's got the pass for today. So we try and get people in the door as fast as possible, because we're not barcoding them or clipping things or whatever. But that does mean they've got to actually get that printed off colour badge, which is where at the moment there is a slight sort of a bit of a delay. And we could look at getting printable printers and all sorts of things like that. So with print at home as a solution for getting people in these things is you've then got to barcode people basically, and that tech costs money, quite a bit of money, which obviously will have an impact on things. So every year we look at our ticketing things and think, how could we make it potentially faster? So because the queue at Expo is part of the experience, we've, as Dave says here, we've put a whole queue channel into Discord. So you can go into Discord and get to the front of the queue. You have to log in through the Expo website and in order to get set up, so the link's all there, and then various functions happen. More of which will come online for the show itself. But as the early parts of this was this queue thing, and that's got now hundreds of random things that happen.
And it's lovely to see Lawrence in the comments. Lawrence, we were just talking about your bus earlier.
And his bus is in the trade hall. It's in the virtual trade hall. It's part of the artwork. You may not have seen it yet, but that'll be there.
And we have there's Robert saying it's their highlights every year. And I've gone on record as saying that from a personal point of view, honestly, Bastion is up there, because Bastion is just like 50 people in an youth hostel. It's a completely different experience, but you sleep in the same building as all these people for 3 days. But UK Games Expo, it's just got amazing energy. And we have a question, because I know you probably don't want to answer this until this is all been done, but so many people have said that after this year, we might see people like potentially or other conventions, or yourselves potentially running 2 conventions a year, like maybe one physical one, and then 6 months later or some time of the year when there's nothing much else happening, having the virtual one. And then
we looked at. I mean, I think when we started this whole site thing up, and we started to say about a virtual show, we had quite a lot of discussion about, do we even do one, because there's clearly going to be costs. We knew it was going to cost some thousands of pounds to get some coding done just to make the site work for this, and then there really was a feeling about, are we just going to do this and then just chuck that away because it's never going to get used again? But I think as things have moved forward, it's become obvious that virtual sort of is a thing that probably is going to have a role to play going forward in some fashion, whether as some form of add-on to the physical shows, whether as something separate, to a physical show. So I think it's one of those things at the moment. We're just going to get the show done and then see how we felt it went. Because we don't know how many people are going to turn up. We've not charged ticket admission to a Virtually Expo. It's a free to enter. The only things that I've got some nominal charges are the role-playing games. And that's actually more of an encouragement for people to turn up, to be honest, as we tend to find people turn up if they spent a couple of quid on a seat. And it's a real nuisance if 6 people book into a game and then 4 of them don't turn up, and the other 2 people are sitting there. Well, we would like, and other people might have booked that seat if it'd been available. So we do it for the. We're not getting much income from that, so it's not about that. It's about a little bit of encouragement for people to keep their seats, as it were. But everything else essentially is free, all the live events and everything. So because of that, it's difficult to track actual numbers. We've got this badge thing, and then you've seen these badges we're doing. On the homepage of the main website at the moment, there's a claim your badge thing, which claim your first badge. So this badge idea is there'll be a whole load of badges you can get on Expo weekend for doing stuff. Yeah. So and if you log into the Expo website, you hit your claim your badge button. That tells us you're coming. So we're getting some idea by people that have got as far as doing this about sort of numbers. But because it's not compulsory, we're only really going to know our numbers on the weekend when we see how many logins, how many people, or Google Analytics about how many people hit the site. But this badge is part of a fun thing, one of those fun things we do. So you can get badges by seeing some of the live entertainment shows, by taking demos in the halls, by watching certain seminars, by voting in the awards. And there's a few hidden badges. I got one this morning by unlocking a hidden badge somewhere on the site. Even I don't know how they all work. Our coder bloke is just chucking in a few Easter eggs. You go to certain places on the site and suddenly, you've earned this badge. You think, oh, how did that happen? So the badges are, so that's the only stat that we've got at the moment is how many people have, got as far as that. But we suspect that's a percentage of the people who will actually turn up on the weekend, because ask any particular group of people, have you claimed your badge yet? And they, oh, sorry, not done that yet. So we're only going to know on the weekend. Are we talking about how many hundreds or into thousands are we going to get around the world? And that's a curious thing to find out, really, how many people will engage with this sort of show virtually. And I think that's probably my biggest question of all, actually. Who's going to turn up?
We've got T Cake and Gaming says they love these badges and they're going to print them all up as a big poster.
Yeah, we're looking at that. We also question about can we buy them next year?
People are really trying to catch them all.
Yeah, well, they know that's the thing. So I think the idea is these are virtual badges. They're not sort of physical world stuff, but you can print them off, and it'll be interesting to see if somebody turns up next year with sort of them all on the front of their shirt or something. Potentially we might have some stickers or something. The idea at the moment is they're just fun, something fun to do, to sort of try and collect as many as you can by doing a variety of activities at the show. And I think it's actually technically probably I find it. I don't think you could possibly get them all, because some of them are for taking part in tournaments and some of those are simultaneous. So unless you've got 2 windows open and you're sort of playing into 2 things, but, we'll see. There's the challenge.
So can you multitask and play Pandemic whilst you're also playing Settlers of Catan?
Yeah, that's the question. So, but someone will accept the challenge, I'm sure. So,
and I mean, so some of the pictures of the Vikings, I just love those pictures because this is pretty unique to UK Games Expo. I mean, you do have some sword fighting, and you get to do sword fighting yourself, which is actually good fun. Mm-hmm. We've got, I don't know how big it is, maybe 7x7-ish. It's not like the most popular thing. Most people just prefer to play the board games. But yeah, and frankly, I can only do like maybe 5-10 minutes of the sword fighting before I'm a sweaty mess. But I love these demonstrations. Like the first year when I was there, coming out and watching these people do that and having these, award ceremonies. Even if you're never going to be able to take part in it all, and that is one of the wonderful things, that all of these things are available to see. And I think there is, look, I know that I'm at risk of just, sorry, to use the slightly crude term, blowing smoke up your arse. And that's not what I want to do, because there are definitely good things about other conventions that are not present in UK Games Expo. And I'm not saying that UK Games Expo is perfect by any means. There's plenty of work that we can all continue to do as a community to make everything that we do better and better. But
I know smaller shows that happen through the year are some of my favourite shows, to be honest, because I get a chance to just be at the show and enjoy them. I really like Glasgow Games Festival in November. It's a one-day show, isn't it? It's a few hundred people, but it's great. It's a really I enjoy it. It's it's the start of the Christmas season, so actually I think it's usually the first weekend when they have the Christmas market in Glasgow quite often. Not going to be this year, of course, but I assume. But there are great things about Glasgow Games Festival. It's a one-day show, few hundred people, and fun, relaxed atmosphere. And that's one of the reasons I like the medieval weekend, which is actually a festival to do with Tolkien and things, and not a games convention at all. But when we feel the only games there are generally what we're running. But some of these other shows all have their own atmospheres, all have their own vibe, and it's great to go to big and small all the way through the year. Down Tabletop Scotland again, great. And that's nice because I generally go there, and it's sort of our off season. When they tend to run in the summer, so we can just go and enjoy again, being there as a publisher and a producer and things, and chat to a few people about Expo. But it's usually the quieter time of year when we're just starting the planning, so you can enjoy being at a show. So we run shows because we enjoy being at shows. And we want to run a show that the way we want to run it, but it's not necessarily going to be perfect. It's and every year we just look at it and think, well, that didn't work. How can we make that better? Or that's the key of doing these shows, isn't it? And you will make mistakes. It's good. It will occur. That's the big thing about organising events. Things will just not happen or not work. You'll try something out and it just isn't popular. Another time you try something you just don't think it's going to happen or work at all. The hundreds turn up to it. That's all part of the fun.
Alex asks, would it work to have little villages, smaller separate areas that you find in some music festivals? I assume that means... you've kind of started doing... I assume this is for the physical convention. Let us know if you mean physically or virtually. But, you've already done a little bit of that with the role-playing games in their own separate bit and seminars in their own...
sometimes people say to us, I want to be in the board game area or something. And we say, well, there's not really a specific... So what we do is we have the family zone. So the family zone, and like you said, like the Hilton Hotel is because role-playing games work better in small rooms, and the best facility that we've got in terms of that space is the Hilton. Because the Hilton has lots of rooms of varying sizes, so you can have anything from sort of 1 or 2 all the way up to maybe 10 or 12 role-playing tables in a room, and that'll work. You can do some of the epics that are in the bigger rooms, but generally speaking, role-playing games work in that environment. The main halls, we have our family zone where we try and have a focus around the family-type orientated stuff. So the sponsors will be in that area. There'll be the areas where the gameplay, the role-playing game for children, the children's reading area. So that has a focal area of its own, and things like the playtest area, for example. But a lot of the rest of the show tends to happen more dynamic than that. What tends to happen is people will come in and they'll book a table, and they'll look at who's in the area, and there'll be a certain gravity will happen. Sometimes it'll be because people want to be in a geographical location because they like that spot. Sometimes it's because it's a spot they get every year, and it'll be interesting next year because that the dynamics of the halls and things that we've got is going to be different next year, which we'll start looking at in the autumn. With different configurations of halls and things, so lots of conversations to be had about that. But basically, they'll look at the map and they'll say, "I quite like that spot," and then once they're in that spot, another company comes along and does the same thing, and they might pop themselves next to it, or they might actually say, "I don't want to be next to Fred because we've got something which is a similar game. We want our own focus, so I want to be on the far side of the hall from that." So we deliberately decided not to have genre specific areas, apart from the family vote, and that's because to try and make it accessible and easy for families. The rest of it, we literally just let it happen, and actually I enjoy that because I love walking down an alley, aisle at the show, and you've got all sorts of different things happening. You'll have somebody with t-shirts next to somebody with a really heavyweight Euro game, and then some next to them, and there's a car parked in their stand or something from Big Potato or something like that, or others that have their thing, and the Wotan bus, and then next to it you'll have a role playing stand, and that kind of like mixed feel going down anywhere means that you can go down a thing and you never know quite what you're going to see next, which I think we enjoy. Yeah, so that's the reason why. The trouble is, once you get that sort of genre area, if you say Euro games are going to be in the Euro zone, and the Euro zone will be this area of Hall 1 or 2 or whatever, then all the people that say, well, I don't want that area of Hall 1, I want to be over here. And then you see the problem with that. So generally, we just say to people, where do you want to go? This is what's happening roughly in this area. This is what the map's starting to shape up like. Where do you fancy? And then they make their own decisions on that.
Yeah, there's something lovely about mixing it all together, that you can have one of the major Asmodee branches like Catan Studios, and they are right next to someone that you've never heard of. And yeah, there's something that really encourages people to wander around a lot more than they would in, say, Hall 8 of Essen, because the people who go to Hall 8 of Essen are basically, okay, I'm die hard, I'm going to wander around. But honestly, if you space out the big people, instead of, I mean, again, I don't want to beat down on Essen, but it's undeniable that halls 1, 2, and 3 are super crammed, whereas everywhere else is fairly easy to navigate, relatively speaking.
Yeah, yes, and it's interesting this year at Essen, because last year at Essen was that, of course, they opened up the doors on the far side of the convention centre, so they allowed people in, but you had to have tickets, I think, to go in through the 1, 2, and 3 side, where so a lot of people initially came in through the Hall 8 end, which was interesting, kind of dynamic. Hall 5, we tend to have a standing hall in that Hall 5 area, kind of in the middle, which for Expo, and also my indie publisher producer, because I think that's quite a nice spot to be in, really. And but I think I think sometimes the really, really crowded halls are a bit two-edged sword, because you actually quite nice to be at that bit where there aren't quite so intense crowds, because it can be difficult sometimes for people to engage with you when it's just standing room only. So I think there's that sort of balance, really, of the sort of busyness. You want activity, you want stuff happening, but equally you want to be able to move. And so I think they all have their own advantages and things.
Are you still having? What happens with this children's ticket? Because this is something you do every year.
We do. Obviously, we didn't get around
prize and.
Yeah, people get a 3-day pass, the family pass. So basically, what we do is we put out
for 2020 for Virtually Expo.
Well, there is no actual ticket, of course, as such. So we don't have a children's ticket thing this year, but we will bring it back next year, absolutely, for the physical show. Assuming there is a physical show next year, so we think it's great. We get loads of really cool designs and things. We will be having family things going on though. So there'll be the families. There will be several things. There'll be a treasure hunt. So the treasure hunt that happens at the real show, where you can go to certain stands and put together a magic word that you have to put into on a page, and that unlocks one of these badges we talk about, the treasure hunt badge. And there'll be a draw, Cold Spring supporting that with nice parlour games. So there'll be a treasure hunt. There'll be the Vikings are doing various fun stuff. Cosplayers will be doing cosplay parade. So there's a number of activities for children. Obviously, a fair number of the exhibitors are family-friendly games as well. So I think there will be things for families to do. We're trying to pull that together onto one page and we'll do some emphasis on that next week. I think, or the week after, we'll send out some news about what is there for families at the show. Because I think that's an important, very much important part of the main show. We want people to feel that they can be part of it at this, this time round.
I think, yeah, it's all about building community, and what I've noticed with Twitch, it's very much about building community. At first, it was like, okay, it's all about the multi-streaming, trying to get it on Facebook, YouTube, and yeah, I've noticed that we've got a few people on all three platforms, and they've who says they really appreciate the designer publisher track and the networking event. And it's really helpful for meeting others in the industry.
Yeah, so this is something we really are keen on, the publisher aspect. I think the networking event this year is going to be somewhat more difficult than it would have been, because obviously you can't have those little group. Normally what happens with that, about 150 publishers, designers, and everyone else get together on the Friday night at the expo and have a drink and a chat. What we're actually going to do is we're going to bring in Peter Atkinson, who was the Coast, owns Gen Con, Alex Yeager from Mayfair Games, and now Steve Jackson Games, and either myself or Tony or both of us. And we're just going to we're going to talk about we're going to chat basically about the state of the industry. I think the talk at the moment is called what the heck happened to the industry, or there's been various times there's been other words inserted in there. And then what we'll do is we'll do that in Twitch. I want to encourage everyone to be part of that in the chat stream, and we'll let people have and that'll be mainly aimed more at publishers and designers, but anyone is welcome to join in. That'll be on the Friday night of the expo, 8 or 9 o'clock. We haven't quite pinned that down yet, but that event will happen. There is other publisher designer stuff. So speed dating is happening. That's a private event, but people have already been. It's all closed down now for this year, but they're sending their applications, their pitches, and publishers will get to look at those. But we'll have a lot of playtest is happening, so that'll still be occurring. So people have got designs they want to put into playtest, they can go on the site and do that, and they can go to the playtest zone, and that'll be running their Discord, and probably people will do that on their screens, sharing videos, whatever. There will be publisher designer track workshops and talks on one of our 3 streams that's happening, which obviously you know about, Bez, because you've been involved in giving us some of these contacts and things, which is thanks for that. So there's several other people that we're lining up a schedule at the moment of talks on all sorts of aspects of the publishing side. So if you think you want to make a game yourself, then go and check out those and things. That's like one of our three streams that'll be running to cover the expo. So yes, it's a bit of a baby of mine, because obviously I'm a little publisher myself, and I think I wanted to make sure there was enough of that at the show to encourage other people that want to get into that to have a route into finding out about the industry and how it works and how you make games and all of that side of things.
Yeah, there's always been a lot to explore, and I mean, I have a personal bias towards UK Games Expo, if only because it is actually the first. Wow, this is from 2 years ago. We're about to see. I have a personal bias because it's the first convention I ever went to, which was 2011. When did it start? 2007 was the first one.
2007 was the first, yeah.
So, I just the amount of seminars, being able to hear people who are doing things that you've no idea how to do and are sharing that knowledge, having all these things that you can just jump in, having some like talks or some shows that have come from Edinburgh that are really subsidized because you've already spent the money, but it's to get to the show. But you can see John Robertson Darkroom for like, what was it, like $5 or $10
something like that. It varies each show, but yeah, something in the 5 to 10 range is what they normally. I think it's £6 last year for the shorter show, and I think 10 for we did a 2-hour one. Well, a Dark Room Till You Die that literally goes on until everybody wants to go to bed, basically. And that's on these. So there's a number of these shows this year on the live entertainment. Quite a lot of them have agreed to do it, and they're actually doing those shows for free. I should emphasise, and what the idea of those is that they'll take subscriptions and donations. So if you go to see a show and you like it, then you click the old subscribe button or the donate button. And obviously, we encourage that if you enjoy the show. But the great thing about those guys is they've all agreed to do those as free shows to actually to experience. So people haven't seen one of those live shows at the real expo, then here's a chance to check them out.
And there's some people that I've introduced that I'm really excited to hear from, especially from my perspective. I'm really excited to hear from Dominic Krapachet, who's the main person for North Star Games, designer of Say Anything that I've had a lot of fun with on Tuesdays and Thursdays streaming, and Wits and Wagers, great game, and Happy Salmon. And talking about how to make a proper mass market game, because frankly, that's once you've sold 1 million, that's proper mass market.
So Happy Salmon was brilliant. We did a big mega game of Happy Salmon at the expo last year as a charity thing. So we did, I think it was 200 people took place. I was actually played in that.
Yeah.
So we did literally got Cold Spring gave us loads of little sets of it, and we did 30, 40 different little games all going on simultaneously. So that was cool. So yeah, Happy Salmon is a true mass market game, isn't it? Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to hear Mandy Hutchinson from the Dice Tower speaking about everything. And we've got Xate asks, is there going to be a loser event? Maybe This Game Is Broken.
I think they're on the schedule. These should be going up. I think it's actually on there already, isn't it? Let's have a look. I'm doing let me just do a quick search for you on there and things. So there's Dave Loser and This Game Is Broken. Team bring you a Friday night board game quiz on at 7:30 to 9 o'clock on the Friday night on the in the seminar schedule. So that's on. Yeah.
And then I think they've got like a daily thing every day at 9 p.m. So I guess they're going to be. But this is all stuff that you can check out by going to ukgamesexpo.co.uk. Or I think even if you type in .com, it redirects you, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. I'm trying.
Oh no, it doesn't.
Okay, the UK should forward you from the UK one. And if you look at the events listings and things,
.co.uk will redirect you to the Virtually Expo bit.
Yep.
Or you can just use Google like people do. And Xate has a thing. So I want to. So what have we? What can be replicated? It sounds like an awful lot. It sounds like we're having the awards, the talks, the conversations, even if it's textual or spoken. We're playing games. What have I missed?
I think you've done most of the sort of things there. I mean, that playing games thing, I think, is the thing that's going to be interesting to see how well that all works, because that's the thing that I suppose some people are a little bit hesitant about that. I mean, even folk that are quite involved with the expo are sort of saying, well, I don't know about this online gaming stuff. It doesn't feel the same as being around a table. And I said, well, sure, I'd much prefer to be around a table playing a game. But that doesn't mean we can't play games. And actually, those platforms, Board Game Reader and Tabletopia, and if you've got Tabletop Simulator, that, and other possibilities, the physical world one like the camera, at the end of the day, just have a go. Now, it does require people to make that connection through those sort of join event things or whatever on people's stands, or go into the Discord, the Open Gaming channel in the Discord, and just you'll find if you go in there and you just do /LFG, that's looking for game, and it'll pop up with a list of people that have said what games they want to do, or you can do /LFG, let's say Catan as an example. It would then say, Bez would like to play a game of Catan, as an example, if you did that. And then it will hold on there for half an hour. So every time you do the LFG thing, you'd be listed, and then eventually it'll drop off after half an hour. But it means that you then just click on the name and then get talking, private message them, go to one of the voice channels on the Expo Discord or elsewhere if you've got a better place, and talk by text or audio and get your game going. And yes, you do need to make that connection. You need to paste in the link to the game or whatever it might be. But it's not that hard, to be honest. So we're going to do a few this coming week or so. We're going to be releasing a number of short, sharp videos on a lot of the processes. 30-second, 2-minute videos on how to get into a game, how to get into all that sort of thing, and that'll be on the site and things. So just to make it easier for people. So I think that's the thing that's the barrier in some ways. It's easy enough to watch a Twitch stream or just to read a page, but it's what I think we want to encourage is people to get involved and engaged. And
Alan Oughton asks if there's a single stream that will be broadcasting continuously, and I believe there will actually be 3.
There'll be 3, yes. So on the site, at the moment it's not on there. So the homepage will transform a day or two before the show to a new version of the site, which has the screens at the top. So literally the first thing you'll see when you come on the site, you'll see these three screens, and they'll carry a Twitch stream called Main Stage, which will be run by our friends on Tabletop, Beasts of War, and they'll be running interviews with exhibitors and sponsors and the like. Then there will be our own Twitch stream, which is a UK Games Expo Twitch stream, which is runs at the moment. That's Millie, and she'll be running our seminar one. I think that's going to be called the Toot stage because of the Toot suite that we have at the main.
And that's where show. I'll be practicing at 10 a.m. on Saturday.
Yep, so that'll be lots of things like This Game is Broken and folks like that, and Shut Up and Sit Down. And then the third stream will be, I think it's /Virtually Expo is the Twitch address, but that'll be the third thing, and that's going to be the publisher designer aspects of the show. So all those folks that there's Alex Jaeger are very much involved in giving us the contacts and setting up those things. So there'll be 3 streams, and there'll be a schedule. You can check on the event schedule. Some of the events are on already, others will be going on this coming week as we nail those down. And
I think one final thing, which is about gathering people together to have so the things that can't be replicated, that are difficult, that you've made efforts to do the best that can be done for sure, are the kind of walking around, the exhilaration of seeing what's there, any physical tactile thing. It simply can't be replicated. We can't do it.
No, I mean, it's going to be, isn't it? All these stands that exist that are beyond there, in the real hall, you're there in front of someone standing, you can hear that buzz of the background noise, you can see all those people, and you pick up that vibe and things, and that's going to be difficult because you can't, when you go into the exhibitor hall and go to a stand, you're not going to be able to see or hear that. We encourage people to get into the Discord channel and type their things in the exhibitor hall and say, just visited this stand, saw that was cool. Why don't you go over there and have a look at that? Just did a demo, that's brilliant. Get a conversation going to tell people. And there'll be some times when we'll be broadcasting simultaneously on all of the Twitch streams and also probably in the lobby of the Discord. So the opening ceremony, the rewards things, there'll be some things which will try and bring everything kind of together and actually try and do, simultaneously, and hopefully there'll be a feeling of involvement in that as much as is possible.
I want to. Sorry, I'm aware that we've dragged on possibly a wee bit more than you were expecting, and I should let you go so that we can both have breakfast. With finding things in the real world, I would be there. I would have lots of people at the stand, and people would be having fun, and then you would see it, frankly, from 10, 20 meters away. In the virtual world, that's not possible. So the way to get people to know about that seems to be then to every so often say, hey, this is a thing that we're about to start at my stand. And where that seems like the only way to have that central community hub, And also, of course, within each Twitch, you are going to have a bunch of people chatting. I mean, right now, it's lovely to see, you know, Alan and Xate and CD and Alex and everyone in the Twitch. And yeah, there's just a lot of conversation there that happens. And yeah, it's maybe that is an argument that I should really only be streaming to one platform, because by dividing it, it does make it more accessible, but at the same time you are dividing that audience. Now, of course, UK Games Expo has a big enough audience that it could be split several hundred ways, because 20,000 people divided by how many exhibitors are there?
The physical show, it's somewhere in the order of 450-ish we were expecting. I don't think we'll have as many virtual stands as that, because there's a number of exhibitors that really, I'm not sure if we were somewhere past 150. We may get to 200-ish or something like that of people that want to actually do the virtual thing. We'll see when we get nearer the show. We actually found it was interesting that Gen Con, until Gen Con happened last week, we've gone very quiet from virtually every aspect for a week or so, because I think everyone was focused on that. Since Gen Con's happened, there's been an awful lot more sort of exhibitors sort of like bursting into life and sort of saying, can I set my stand up? How do I connect? And how do I get an events happening and all this sort of stuff? So I think we'll find, and in fact the number of events on there was sort of fairly static and only a couple of hundred or so. Now it's jumped quite a bit, and I think we'll find more will be added on this coming this coming week or so, because I think exhibitors I think mentally they had to get past Gen Con, see how that worked. Not even if they weren't exhibiting at Gen Con, there's probably quite a bit of let's have a look at this and see how that works. And now they're sitting down and thinking, right, let's get it sorted now. So
I mean, it feels I didn't engage at all with Gen Con, because I had my own thing that I was doing that weekend called Bez Day, where I was basically streaming about 9 hours a day on my thing last weekend. I don't know if you were aware.
Yes, I've heard of it and things. Yes,
it was a great time, and I think Catherine was there and Xate was there and all sorts of people, and we had In a Bond, which I'm going to replicate either on Saturday or Sunday for one of my 2 p.m. events, because normally in the real world I do have these 2 p.m. events. I'm not going to say, okay, the winner gets a whole stack of games, because frankly, then I incur postage. I'm not expecting to make even, realistically, I'm expecting to sell, it's like less than 10%, 5%, 2%.
I really don't know what we're not being. We said right from the start of this, we didn't put it in the exhibitor pack that we sent out to the exhibitors. We had a big sort of, we don't know what's going to happen, guys. We might have a few hundred. We might have, whatever, thousands. We really don't know for certain what the engagement level will be, and whether any of that translates into sales or not. When you have 25,000 people walking past the stand, you hope to sell something to somebody. But in this world, I don't know. But I think it's it would be easy to spend money. Well, this comes down to how the exhibitor stands can have links to their shops, however that's done. So I would suggest that perhaps you put this is a word to exhibitors, but maybe at the top of your page you have a little picture of your games or something, and that links to your online shop. You want to buy my games, click here, that sort of thing. Make it easy for people, because rather than buried away somewhere deep down on the page, make it easy for folk. But there's no reason why exhibitors cannot be selling things, because that should be part of the activity. That if you see a game that you like the look of, you want to order it, and they do mail order, then that should be available and accessible. Or if they don't, then maybe it links to a retail shop that carries their stuff, or something like that, or Amazon or whatever, if that's or one of these other online places. I think I'm optimistic. I hope I hope lots of people sell stuff, but I think we don't know, do we? We will wait and see.
We will see what happens. I mean, the one thing that I kept wanting to get to, which I didn't quite manage to get to, was the sort of notion of spamming and exhibitors kind of sharing, hey, this is what I'm doing. And because that is the way that you are going to have people finding out about stuff via a central hub of, hey, this thing is happening at this time, hey, this thing is happening at this time. But how do you manage to have the balance between there being a central hub where people can post about everything and avoiding it just turning into a constant stream of
yeah, and I think we're going to have to, and it's one thing we're looking at, and probably the next few days we'll release something to the exhibitors generally to say, this is what these are the rules. These are kind of like our guidelines and rules for posting stuff in sort of common channels. Because you're right, I think it could be very easy just people to be spamming the heck out of things. I mean, people's own social media posts and things like that, they can do what they want. That's their own channels and things. But I think within the context of the actual what we don't want to do is have hundreds and hundreds of posts about buy this, buy that, and so on. So I think that's going to have to be contained and things. So I think we'll come back to exhibitors in the next few days and sort of with some guidance on that. I think the on the event page you can put events on for all the things you're doing. They'll be visible on the in the listings for everyone. Make that as pretty as you like. If you've got events, you can put images in. You can put links. You can put videos, I think, in now into that.
Oh.
So I'm pretty sure that's that exhibitor events can be edited quite a bit now to contain additional things to make it an enticing front end, as it were, that people want to then go in and find more out about it. Like you would a stand. What we're trying to do is say with the stand, make it look like a real world stand. Don't just have a load of text. Go with images and videos and sort of short, sharp bursts of bits of text that just is to the point, so that it makes it an enticing looking thing, and people then want to find out more about it. Because I think if you just go to a page, it's just a block text. The chances are people will click on quite quickly.
It feels like the whole thing, as an exhibitor, it feels almost like a crash course in online marketing, because whereas a physical convention is a completely different situation, where what you do is very different. So you gather a crowd, more people will come, you get people enjoying themselves, well, more people will come from next door, whatever. But with online, it's kind of having that quick, first 2 seconds look at it when people are clicking through. And it's possible that, I've had this stuff by Bez logo, which is black text on a white background for so long. I mean, people have made a point that probably there should be a bit of red in there, given...
Yeah, I see what your sort of standard...
But that's like... it has been... I don't know... Do we have time for one more question, which is how important are new releases to the show?
I think the physical show very important. I think both shows, to be honest. I mean, I think we are going to be doing this thing, which again we'll be firing out probably this week to exhibitors, called our new games function, which actually exhibitors can enter stuff in at the moment, and we're going to show the front end of that in the next week or so. So that'll be anything that's new to buy, new to play, new to try, new to back, I think, are the things. So if it's something that is that you can only buy for the first time, we're a bit flexible on that. Normally we say at the show itself, we're going to be saying if it was something that is new to buy, from the May show to sort of now kind of thing, because there's delays and cancellations, postponements, so we're not going to be harsh in that. But if it was literally new to buy this summer, if it's new to play, which means it's a sort of you can have a go at this game. It's a new release, but you can't buy it yet, but you can try it out. New to try is meant to be sort of like prototypes. And then new to back, is this a Kickstarter? Is this something that's available on Kickstarter? So those 4 things. So there'll be a page for that that'll be coming up. Exhibitors can already enter that information. In fact, this weekend we've updated that page so that people can add images and links and edit the stuff if they've already done it. So if exhibitors go into their portal, they should find anything they've already submitted is editable now and visible, and they can spruce that up a bit, and then that'll go out to a front end. It's still over the next few days that'll become live. I think Essen is all about the big releases, isn't it? So many huge numbers of games come out of Essen, and that's the show which new releases are all about, and very much if you're a designer and publisher, you're going to want to be involved in that. Gen Con obviously has a good number of releases itself. Over the last few years, Expo has started to attract releases, particularly if people have got a release schedule of several things during the year. Then we're starting to find people are tying in things now with the Expo. At the very least, we're getting those. These are the first peaks at things that are going to come out of Essen later. And there's a cycle of things where things will run through their prototype stages and then onwards. One of the big things about Expo has always been that Kickstarter thing. You see so many Kickstarters happening, coinciding with the show. And I know people sometimes they get their entire Kickstarter backed at Expo. They managed to get enough backing to just on that one, on a 3 days show.
Mark McKinnon of Wreck and Ruin fame did a lot of work at Expo to get that game done.
So I think that element is important, and it's something we've always encouraged. And as the show's got bigger, it's started to get enough of a gravity to attract those things. And I think and we're keen to encourage that. So we'll see what new stuff we'll get a page up on that in the next few days and release that.
It has been wonderful to have you. If people wish to search more about Virtually Expo, then the link that I shared, ukgamesexpo.co.uk/virtually expo, is the one that you should all follow. Are there other links that you would like to give a shout out to, or is it all on that page?
Well, that's the best place. I mean, I think we're using hashtag UK Games Expo is always an ongoing one, but I think we've also hashtag Virtually Expo is working this year as well. But I mean, the website's the key, because if you can get in there and if you're thinking of coming, it really does help us actually. If you get as far as registering an account, clicking on that claim your badge button, and also go through to the Discord, which is linked. Both links are on the homepage, both for the badge and the Discord. Get into the Discord and tell us you're coming. Ask a few questions. We're sort of usually populating that. Someone's usually on at any given time answering questions. So if you've got queries, then that's not a bad place to come through and ask us. You'll find somebody from the Expo lurking there at any given time. And
thank you, Dave, for the good wishes. I want to say to everyone, if you want to check me out, you can buy my stuff on stuffbybez.bigcartel. Wait, I like to try to time it for when it comes across to see if I can say it all by the time it finishes going wrong. So you can buy my stuff at stuffbybez.bigcartel.com, twitter.com/stuffbybez. I tweet all the time, instagram.com/stuffbybez. I sometimes share pictures. Twitch.tv/stuffbybez is the best place to watch my streams, and facebook.com/thingsbybez, or stuffbybez@gmail.com if you wish to email me for some reason. And I want to say, looking forward to hopes and ambitions, it's over to you for this final section. And I would like to invite everyone who's watching along to ponder something they're looking forward to or hoping for, whether it's today or tomorrow or anytime. And I like to do as short scale as I can. And so what I'm going to say is today is my birthday celebration, and I am having
birthday.
So I'm having Chris, McCall, and Layla over for my birthday, as well as everyone who already lives here, because those are the people who are kind of bubbling with. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping that we get a small game of In a Bond going. I'm just hoping that we have a great time. And so that is my thing to be looking forward to today. What about you, Richard?
Well, actually, it's my birthday on Tuesday.
Is it? Congratulations. Happy early birthday. That you're the 11th, I'm the 13th.
Yep. So we've booked in somewhere for a nice lunch somewhere with my parents. Just again, half a dozen others at a place, but that'll be fun.
Yeah. It is such an exciting time, and Kate's also having a birthday, and my niece is having a birthday tomorrow, and my brother's having a birthday next. Yeah, it's good time for birthdays. So thank you. And I want to say, to recap, I am excited, and there's definitely a bit of work that us publishers, even if it's just basically one person, has to ideally get done for the preparation of Virtually Expo. But I am looking forward to it. There's definitely a very sharp learning curve. We were all thrown in this together, but I am super looking forward to it. And there's definitely a bit of desire in myself to kind of say, I'm torn in two directions. I'm torn to either say, okay, I'm going to at least man the thing or have a thing running literally all the time during the trade hours. And the other direction that I'm drawn to is saying, okay, let's just have a limited thing, and maybe I even go along to one of the talks and jump in, because that would also be quite nice. You really cannot do it all, can you?
No, I mean, obviously with 3 streams going on simultaneously, you can't watch, and then all the exhibitor events. I mean, we're 350 plus at the moment. I'm sure that'll grow as exhibitors get more events on there. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how it all works, really.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who's been watching along. Thank you to Alex, TK Gaming, CD, Xate, Robert, Dave, Alan, Catherine. Sorry if I missed your name, but thank you everyone for watching along. And most importantly, thank you, Richard, for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me.
It has been super lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And please, if you have enjoyed this, then share, spread the word. Obviously, Virtually Expos are doing great stuff. It is a free event, so why not jump in? So with the link, and also spread the word about my streams. I'm doing this every day at 10 a.m. And tomorrow, I am talking to Rory Muldoon about designing games and art in conjunction. And then the following day, I'm going to be talking with Alan Paul. We've decided we're going to be reviewing Energy Empire together. We'll see how that works. And yeah, there is only one thing left to do, which is to say bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye.